Today we're taking a look at these NCAAF matches, which are happening on Saturday, September 4, 2021, and giving you match breakdowns, betting tips and predictions in general on these games. Welcome back to High Stakes, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and if you would like more betting tips and predictions, then check out our Patreon in the link down below. Our new Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. 5 plans are available for each and every one of you. You can get 30 extra betting picks all the way up to 270 extra betting picks per month. Stop wasting hours of your time searching for bad betting advice that ends up costing you a lot of money. Join the High Stakes Patreon now and get the best betting picks and advice. Alabama vs Miami, FL. The Hurricanes' defense is also coming off a strong season, allowing only 27 points per game, but defensive-minded head coach Manny Diaz will have to replace some of the biggest playmakers from last season, most notably, pass rusher Jalen Phillips, who had 8 sacks last season to lead the unit. The hope is that Zach McLeod, Jafari Harvey, and Jonathan Ford can step up on the defensive line in the absence of Phillips, with the trio combining for 62 tackles. King is the veteran behind center, so he has to know how important ball security will be in this game. The Crimson Tide might have the best defense in the country, and a defensive guru like Saban will dial up ways to put pressure on him. Alabama ranked top 10 in the country in total sacks, 35, last season, and opposing teams only averaged 3.33 yards per carry against them on the ground. My first betting advice is to pick Alabama Crimson Tide. The question is who will replace the key contributors from last season. A quarterback, the Crimson Tide will turn to sophomore Bryce Young, who was a top recruit out of high school as one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks, but sat behind Mac Jones for the entirety of last season. In the run game, senior running back Brian Robinson Jr. should receive a majority of the carries after finishing last season with 483 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns, but expect the underclassmen in Jace McClellan and Trey Sanders to also receive plenty of touches in the hopes of replacing Najee Harris and his 1891 scrimmage yards and 30 touchdowns from last season. The quarterback that led one of the greatest defenses in college football history, Mac Jones, is gone. Devonta Smith, who is arguably the greatest receiving talent that ever played a snap of college football, is gone. Jalen Waddle, the real-life version of the Flash, is gone. Najee Harris, one of the best dual-threat running backs in the country, is gone. Offensive linemen Alex Leatherwood, Landon Dickerson and Deion Brown are gone. My second betting advice is to pick over Massachusetts vs Pittsburgh. Avien P is expected to anchor the defensive line as he had 19 tackles last season, which is the most among returning defenders, with 6 of those tackles being for loss as well. The hope is that Najee Logan can step up in the secondary with the unit failing to create an interception last season. The Panthers finished 2020 39th in passing offense with an average of 259.7 yards per game, while they were only 111th in rushing offense with an average of 119.9 yards per game. Pitt was 58th in scoring offense with an average of 29 points per game, while they were 37th in the FBS in scoring defense with an average of 24.5 points a night. Kenny Pickett is back to run the offense after completing 203 of 332 passes for 2,408 yards, with 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, while adding 145 yards and 8 scores on the ground. Joey Yellen, 35 of 78, 402 yards, TD, 3 int, is back should something happen to Pickett, as happened last year. My first betting advice is to pick Pitt Panthers minus 38. The offense is expected to improve, but the Panthers are led by their defense, which allowed only 24.5 points per game last season. Linebacker Servasia Dennis is expected to lead the defense up the middle after recording 55 tackles last season, 14 of which were for loss and 4 sacks, but will also receive help from linebacker Cam Bright, who had 50 tackles last season as well. The Minutemen finished the 2020 season 123rd in the FBS in passing offense as they averaged 120.3 yards per game through the air and 126th by rushing for an average of 67.3 yards a contest. UMass was a miserable 127th in scoring offense as they mustered all of 3 points a game. That's not a typo. The Minutemen scored 12 points combined in 4 games. For good measure, UMass was 122nd in scoring defense as they allowed 40.3 points a game last season. My second betting advice is to pick under Central Michigan vs Missouri. This Central Michigan Chippewas defense has been incredible at forcing turnovers last season, as they had 8 interceptions and 7 fumble recoveries in their 6 games. The preseason SEC poll has Missouri ranked 4th in the conference's Eastern Division, and they'll want to jump off to a strong start in the opener. My first betting advice is to pick Central Michigan plus 13.5. The Missouri Tigers have a kid at quarterback with a big arm, as sophomore Connor Bazelak finished the 2020 season with a completion percentage of 67.3% for 2,366 yards, with 7 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Central Michigan was one of the MAC's most electric offenses last year and bring back a ton of production. Daniel Richardson was electric as the quarterback last season, but he's far from the guaranteed starter, with Washington transfer Jacob Sermon making himself known in the quarterback room as well. My second betting advice is to pick over. Quick reminder, you can get 125% cashback bonus on your first deposit on our partner sportsbook BetUS after you open an account using our link down below and use our promo code HIGHSTAKES when making your deposit. Louisiana Tech vs Mississippi St. The Louisiana Tech Bulldogs have been okay at best throughout the 2020 season, as he finished with 14 forced turnovers, 9 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries. They struggled last season overall, allowing 34.7 points per game and 198.3 yards per game on the ground, 96th. Fortunately, Mississippi State is going to throw about 90% of the time, it's going to be up to their pass rush and secondary in this one. The pass rush is going to be one of the major keys, especially on Saturday against a Mike Leach offense. They did lose their top pass rusher from last season and are really relying on the core group of returners to get it done. The secondary will be able to hold their own all season long if they aren't left on an island for huge chunks of time, and BJ Williamson is one to keep an eye on. My first betting advice is to pick Mississippi State minus 23.5. The Mississippi State Bulldogs had a pretty good defense last year, as they forced 18 total turnovers, 11 interceptions, 7 fumble recoveries. They struggled against the pass, allowing 263.4 yards per game to rank 105th in the nation. They do return just 6 starters, but 3 are from the secondary. Luke Anthony is slated to get the start on Saturday, but with Aaron Allen also seeing time last season, it wouldn't be a surprise to see both get some action, especially if Anthony struggles early. My second betting advice is to pick under. Louisiana vs Texas. Defense is the name of the game, and the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns know how to be disruptive in the passing game especially. They deflected a total of 39 passes a year ago and forced 23 turnovers, 16 touchdowns, 7 fumble recoveries. Looking back at their bowl game against the Utah Roadrunners, they allowed 24 points but had 2 turnovers in the game. The offense was electric last season with Sam Ehlinger at the helm, averaging 475 yards per game and 43 points per game. On the defensive side, new faces on the staff and fresh faces for the players means that it could be a rough opener getting used to the new system. Being at home will be the biggest advantage for the Longhorns, with the Utah faithful ready to be back in the stadium. My first betting advice is to pick Louisiana plus 9. My second betting advice is to pick over. Good luck to all of you. That's it for this video. Stay tuned and stay safe for the next betting tips and advice.